As Ukraine approaches the third anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion, the conflict remains as turbulent as ever, with significant developments shaping the geopolitical landscape. Just hours before this somber milestone, the intensity of military actions escalated dramatically as Russian forces launched a record 267 drones in a single operation against Ukraine. This unprecedented assault, which struck 5 regions, underscores the relentless aerial campaign that has become a hallmark of the ongoing war. The Ukrainian Air Force reported that approximately 138 drones were intercepted, while another 119 were neutralized by electronic warfare tactics. In the context of these military maneuvers, former U.S. President Donald Trump indicated that the United States is close to a deal regarding access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals. This assertion came amid discussions about military aid and economic support for Ukraine, pointing towards a potential shift in U.S. policy under Trump's administration. The implications of such a deal are substantial, as rare earth minerals are critical for various technologies, including those used in defense and renewable energy. Trump's aide Steve Witkoff hinted that an agreement could be finalized within the week, drawing attention to the intricate interplay between resources and geopolitics. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has expressed a willingness to step down in exchange for Ukraine's NATO membership, reflecting the high stakes involved in securing international support for his country. "We are ready for a compromise that may include my resignation for Ukraine to become a NATO member," Zelensky stated, emphasizing the urgency of formalizing Ukraine's security guarantees amid ongoing threats from Russia. This statement aligns with his recent discussions with British Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer, who reaffirmed the UK's ironclad support for Ukraine, advocating for a decisive peace strategy that includes European nations in the negotiation process. The backdrop of these diplomatic overtures is marked by the continued aggression from Russian forces, which have been bolstered by a sizable drone campaign aimed at crippling Ukraine's military and civilian infrastructure. The recent drone strike is not just a tactic of war but a psychological weapon aimed at instilling fear and disrupting daily life in Ukraine. Zelensky condemned these actions as aerial terror, highlighting the emotional toll on the Ukrainian populace. As the military situation evolves, the international community is also reacting. The UK is preparing to unveil a substantial package of sanctions against Russia, coinciding with the anniversary of the invasion. British Foreign Secretary David Lammy announced that these measures would aim to tighten the screws on the Kremlin amidst ongoing debates about the efficacy of current Western support for Ukraine. The divergence between US and European approaches has raised concerns about a cohesive strategy moving forward, particularly as Trump's administration signals a willingness to engage Russia directly, albeit with contentious implications for Ukraine's sovereignty. In a parallel narrative, reports indicate that North Korean troops previously seen fighting alongside Russian forces have become less visible on the front lines. This shift raises questions about the effectiveness and sustainability of Russia's military alliances as the conflict drags on and casualties mount. The situation is further complicated by ongoing discussions about the potential deployment of a European peacekeeping force in Ukraine, an idea that remains contentious and fraught with logistical challenges. The landscape of the Ukraine-Russia conflict is one of constant flux, with military, diplomatic, and humanitarian dimensions intertwining. As global leaders navigate these turbulent waters, the urgency for a resolution becomes ever more critical. The coming weeks will be pivotal in determining not only the future of Ukraine but also the broader geopolitical equilibrium in Eastern Europe. With negotiations expected to intensify, the world watches closely, anticipating how these developments will shape the ongoing struggle for peace and stability in the region. As the conflict in Ukraine approaches its third anniversary, the situation on the ground remains dire, marked by an unprecedented escalation in hostilities. On February 23, 2025, Russian forces launched a staggering 267 drones across at least 13 Ukrainian regions, marking the largest single drone attack since the onset of the full-scale invasion on February 24, 2022. This aggressive move has heightened tensions and drawn international scrutiny as Ukrainian officials reported significant impacts from the assault. Yuri Ignat, a spokesman for Ukraine's Air Force Command, confirmed the scale of the attack, stating it was a record number for one attack. Ukrainian air defense units managed to intercept 138 of the drones, while 119 went off radar and 3 veered towards Russia. The assault also included 3 Iskander-M/Kn-23 ballistic missiles, further illustrating the intensifying military capabilities being employed by Russian forces. The drone strikes targeted key civilian areas, with the Kharkiv region suffering direct hits. Notably, a civilian vehicle was struck in Kupiansk, injuring 2 individuals. Further attacks were reported in Kostiantynivka, where residential areas were bombed, resulting in casualties and damage to infrastructure. Local authorities reported that a 69-year-old woman was killed and several others suffered injuries from the bombardments. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky noted that nearly 1,150 loitering munitions and over 1,400 guided aerial bombs had been employed against Ukrainian cities during the preceding week. The drone attacks are perceived not only as tactical maneuvers but also as a psychological strategy aimed at instilling fear and chaos among the civilian population. The ongoing use of drones underscores Russia's reliance on unmanned aerial vehicles as a core component of its military strategy, allowing for both reconnaissance and direct strikes with reduced risk to personnel. In tandem with the drone assaults, diplomatic developments are unfolding. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov announced plans for upcoming talks between U.S. and Russian officials, which may address not only the ongoing conflict but broader U.S.-Russia relations. This comes amidst growing concerns that negotiations could lead to agreements that undermine Ukrainian sovereignty, a sentiment echoed by various European leaders. As the situation continues to evolve, the international community is poised to respond. The United Kingdom is preparing a significant package of sanctions against Russia, expected to be unveiled on February 24, coinciding with the anniversary of the invasion. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump has expressed intentions to press Ukraine for repayment of financial aid, complicating the already fraught dynamics of U.S.-Ukrainian relations. The geopolitical landscape remains volatile, with the potential for further escalations as both sides prepare for intensified military operations. As Ukraine braces for continued assaults, the pressing question remains: how will the international community respond to both the humanitarian crisis and the strategic challenges posed by Russia's ongoing military campaigns? The coming days and weeks will be critical as diplomatic negotiations unfold and military actions intensify, shaping the future trajectory of this enduring conflict. In a significant show of support for Russian soldiers engaged in the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, President Vladimir Putin has labeled them as the main heroes of the nation. This assertion reflects a continuing narrative intended to bolster morale among troops and emphasize the patriotic duty of those fighting in the war, which has now entered its 3rd year. Putin's remarks come against a backdrop of widespread scrutiny regarding the war's toll on both Ukrainian civilians and Russian soldiers alike. As hostilities persist, the dynamics of international diplomacy surrounding the conflict are rapidly evolving. Recently, U.S. President Donald Trump has been navigating a controversial approach towards Russia, which has drawn both criticism and support from various political factions. Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson of the UK Labour Party has notably defended Trump's decision to engage with Putin, asserting that there can be no negotiated peace without Russia. This statement underscores an urgent need for dialogue as the war ravages Ukraine, leading to immense humanitarian crises and geopolitical instability. The discussions around peace talks have sparked a debate about the role of Ukraine in these negotiations. Critics of Trump, including UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer, assert that Ukraine must be central to any discussions aimed at resolving the conflict. Starmer is set to meet with Trump to advocate for Ukraine's involvement, emphasizing that the Ukrainian voice is crucial for a lasting settlement. However, Trump's recent remarks, which downplayed Zelensky's importance in negotiations, have raised concerns about the potential sidelining of Ukrainian interests. President Trump has brought the Russians to the table, Phillipson stated, reinforcing her belief that diplomatic engagement is necessary even if it means dealing with contentious figures like Putin. This sentiment echoes sentiments among other political leaders who are grappling with the complex realities of international relations. Notably, former conservative leader Lord William Hague warned against a possible miscalculation in Washington's approach, suggesting that a lack of robust support for Ukraine might embolden aggressive actions by Russia and set a dangerous precedent for future conflicts. Senator Markwayne Mullin, a Republican from Oklahoma, added another layer to the discourse by expressing skepticism over the notion that Russia might extend its aggression towards NATO allies. He stated, "I don't believe for a second Russia is going to advance a war in any other country right now," indicating a belief that Putin would be cautious in escalating tensions beyond Ukraine. Mullin's comments, however, come amidst rising apprehensions about NATO's unity and the implications of Trump's peace strategy, which some fear could undermine the alliance's collective security. The ongoing war in Ukraine and the related international diplomatic efforts encapsulate a complex web of political maneuvering, where the stakes are extraordinarily high. As the conflict continues to evolve, the future of Ukraine and the broader geopolitical landscape will likely hinge on how effectively leaders can navigate these difficult discussions. The coming weeks may prove pivotal as Starmer meets with Trump, potentially influencing the trajectory of peace talks and the overall approach of the Western alliance toward Russia. Ultimately, the resolution of the Ukraine conflict remains uncertain, with various factions within the US and Europe advocating for differing strategies. As the situation unfolds, the interplay between military action, diplomacy, and the voices of those directly affected by the conflict will shape the narrative and potentially bring about a resolution or deepen the crisis further. With each passing day, the world watches closely, awaiting developments that could redefine international relations for years to come amid escalating tensions and a significant backdrop of conflict. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has presented a bold proposition. He is willing to resign from his position in exchange for peace in Ukraine or NATO membership. This unexpected offer came during a press conference in Kyiv held just ahead of the third anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. "If there is peace for Ukraine, if you really need me to leave my post, I am ready," Zelensky stated, emphasizing his commitment to prioritizing the nation's security over his political tenure. The dramatic announcement reflects both the urgency of Ukraine's ongoing struggle and the increasingly complex geopolitical landscape. Zelensky's willingness to step down underscores the dire situation his country faces as Russia has recently intensified its military offensives, launching its largest drone attack since the conflict began. The Ukrainian president revealed that 267 Russian drones targeted various cities and villages just a day before the anniversary, marking a significant escalation in hostilities. In the same breath, Zelensky expressed his desire for NATO membership, suggesting that if such an offer was on the table, he could expedite his departure from office. "I can exchange this for NATO membership if such conditions exist immediately," he declared, signaling a pragmatic approach focused on immediate security guarantees for Ukraine. His comments come amidst a fraught exchange with U.S. President Donald Trump, who recently labeled Zelensky as a dictator and suggested he bore responsibility for the war's inception, a claim Zelensky vehemently rejected. "He is living in a disinformation bubble," the president retorted, emphasizing the need for a unified stance against Russian aggression. Zelensky's statement also included a call for the United States to provide concrete security guarantees to assist Ukraine in its defense efforts. He hinted at potential agreements that would allow the U.S. access to Ukrainian natural resources, a move that could bolster both nations' strategic positions. Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff indicated that discussions around tapping Ukraine's rare earth minerals might lead to a deal within the week, highlighting the increasing intertwining of military and economic interests as a pathway to peace. While Zelensky navigates these complex negotiations, he remains focused on the internal ramifications of his presidency. He emphasized that he does not intend to remain in power for an extended period, stating, "I'm focusing on Ukraine's security today, not in 20 years.
His comments resonate deeply with a war-weary population that has endured immense suffering and loss since the onset of the conflict. The current geopolitical standoff is further complicated by ongoing discussions between US and Russian diplomats which have proceeded without Ukraine's involvement.
These talks aim to address issues straining bilateral relations, raising concerns in Kyiv about being sidelined in negotiations that directly affect its sovereignty and future. As the situation evolves, the international community watches closely. Zelensky's willingness to sacrifice his presidency for peace or NATO membership represents a pivotal moment in Ukraine's ongoing struggle for security and autonomy. The implications of these developments could reshape not only Ukraine's future but also the broader dynamics of NATO and US-Russia relations in a time of escalating conflict.
Looking ahead, the potential for new agreements and the outcomes of ongoing negotiations will be crucial in determining the path forward for Ukraine.
With significant military action still unfolding and diplomatic discussions in progress, the coming weeks will be critical in shaping the landscape of European security and the fate of the Ukrainian people.